Are we live? I think we're live. So happy Wonder Wednesday, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you're doing well, whether you're watching us now live or whether you'll be watching this video in the future. If this is your first time here, this is Floxies Community. We are an international community for women in UX UI design and Webflow development. And every week we host these weekly events every Wednesday, and we like to call them our Wonder Wednesday because we invite very valuable guest speakers from either the design or the Webflow space to come and inspire and teach the girls in our community. So throughout the past couple Wednesdays, we've been looking at HTML and CSS, which is, as you all know, if you've been in this kind of space, in the web development space, it's a fundamental skill to have. And so today in particular, we are going to dive a little bit deeper into the world of typography and custom classes still related to HTML and CSS. So without further ado, let me get into our space. Let me share my screen. There we go. We're going to look into our metaverse on GatherTown, which is what we use to host our sessions every Wednesday. And this is also where we co-work every week. So if you do like it, come and pay us a visit. I'm always very happy to show people around. So let me just move here. All right, we're good to go. So let me join the space. I can see all the Floxies are ready.
It's a bit awkward that, but
yeah, it is. I mean,
once that's what you do.
It's already done. I just had that question. Thank you so much.
And welcome everyone. I just love, these new habits that I have of stepping outside of the room, launching the live and getting back into a full room of Floxies. It's so beautiful. And there's a little baby there. Hi. So gorgeous. And welcome back to our Wonder Wednesday. I was just telling the audience that we've been looking into HTML and CSS. For anyone who's into web development, you know how fundamental these skills are. And so that's why we've been very fortunate to have our expert speaker here, Ailin Tobin, developer and super experienced Webflow developer as well. So you get the best of both worlds with Ailin. And we've been running our series, which we've also been calling our summer camp. And so, very, very exciting and very fortunate to have you back here with us today, Ailin. How are you doing? Are you enjoying your experience with us so far? Have we been good students?
I'm loving it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the whole thing. So thanks for asking me back. I don't know. Have people done their little bit of homework and tried to build out a hero section?
As for every school, you do get some naughty students, and I would say you're in a pretty naughty group. But I know one person did try. Lucy, do you want to share your experience?
Yes, can I do that in just a second?
Sure. Hi. Shout out to or maybe not.
I tried this afternoon. I thought about it for quite a few days and I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it on Wednesday. And I kind of underestimated how different it would be. Like I downloaded the templates the clonable, and I realized that at pretty much every step I really had to think like, wait, this is what I'm used to do, but is this client first? Is it okay, and so I dove into the documentation, which was huge, as we all know, and I felt like, okay, if I want to do this properly, I actually need a lot more time than just that. And silly things like I didn't just quickly find like, is there probably is a flex class already, like, or do I just make my own, like, because I'm used to taking
that's really so when it comes to flex and grid, they're custom classes.
Okay.
And they're not utility or classes. So yeah, you would have let's say you're making a card and you wanted to have a flex property, you'd have created the card as a custom class and used the syntax so that it was maybe like a hero card or a features card,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
that would have its own custom Flex CSS inside it.
Okay, good. Well, that's what I ended up doing, but I wasn't sure, and I didn't take the time to really, like, read everything through. I couldn't find anything about the Flex thing, so and thing is like that. I don't know, but it's a really different way, I guess. No, it's just having to know like which part is. It's just a different thinking. I
Would
guess.
you mind sharing it with us so that I could have a look and we can
Of
discuss
course.
it that way?
But honestly, there's very little to show. Wait just a second.
That's all right.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to Lucy's husband as well for taking the baby, and he's also a developer, so we can
Nice.
share the love.
Let me see where am I.
If you could share the read only and I could go through it, and because I think there might be some, like even straight away that we didn't talk about going that deep into custom properties.
I think it ties well to our event today, because today we were going to explore a little bit more of typography and custom classes, aren't we? So that ties really well.
Yeah. But I did not even do a nav or just.
That's okay.
Here it is. Let's see. Is it this one? Yes.
And Andrea is saying that she didn't do the homework, but she can show a project that she's already worked on. So that could be interesting to look at as well.
Yeah, sure.
So copy the link, and I put it here in the chat, right? There.
And then maybe, Ailin, if you want to share your screen whilst you look at it so we can see as well.
Okay, this is good. There's some stuff we can definitely talk about here. That's great. Yeah, I'll share the screen. Okay, so we're in here in Lucy's build. Just going to increase it. All right, so the first thing I see is structure is good. We've got our page wrapper, global styles, our main wrapper. And then we're going into a section. And you use the section element from Webflow, which there's no issue with that. And it has its section tag. Now, the way client first, so the way we should type out our section home, or section hero, or whatever you want to call it, is we should have an underscore instead of a dash. So that's the first thing.
Yep.
And then as we go down, our hero wrapper should be hero dash wrapper. Hero hero underscore wrapper, hero underscore image. So you've found this H1 style, which probably is from the style guide.
True. So, so it has this long name. It's not the right one, probably.
Yeah, so there would be, I can update these things, can't I? And there was something else there. That's interesting. So you've got a text align center and heading large. And we've got our hero wrapper. This is perfect. The way you did it. Okay, so this is where we're getting into our custom classes. So this should be written hero wrapper, but then you've given it a custom flex styling. That's absolutely perfect. There's no issue with that. The other options there is you could make it a grid because it would already have the gap. It would do the exact same thing. Now, the one thing I see here is you've got your heading large and you've got your text align center. In theory, there's nothing wrong with that, but for me, it would be more efficient if like you had your you're meant to be looking for your H style heading style 1, and now, but you were looking for something that's 6 rem. What we should do here, because I'm going to assume that this is a custom class it's taken from the style guide, is, and you had the text align center. So what probably should just do here is call this our, everything under this is called home. So we'll just call it home heading. Now we got a nice clean, so that's under hero section should be, we're just going to call it section hero. We won't use the home bit at the moment. Section hero, and then this is our hero heading. And we've got our hero image. Let's change this ever so slightly. And max width is fine. Okay, so, and you had a text align center here. Now, there is nothing incorrect about this, but the way I would do this is, because you've created a custom class inside your hero wrapper, is I would align the text center. And it means it's just cascading down from this hero custom class. Both are correct. Neither of them are incorrect. But it just means that anything that's inside this hero wrapper is now aligned center, if that's the way you wanted your design to be. Including this little piece of, yeah, you can see here, if you can see down there, the value has cascaded down from this wrapper. And that's if you wanted, if that was the intention of this particular wrapper or card. So the only real, the naming of the classes was, you just needed to change the dash to an underscore.
Mm-hmm.
And then just change this to make it a custom class that was relative to the section and the hero image was fine. And you've added a max width medium here. Now, this works in this instance because we have our hero wrapper flexing everything to the center. You could try, we want to keep the text size.
I love the image, by the way, the artwork, so cool.
Yeah, it's class. One of the things that I really like using are containers. So you could have container small. Now that's not doing the exact width that you wanted there. So you had it at 32. So we've got a container small. So I'm going to make it, I don't think there's a container extra small.
I mean, it's not even really needed here because it's just the length of the text. So it doesn't matter either way.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying another option would be to make a container extra small. The reason I like containers is because they already have properties left and right.
Mm.
But since we're in a flex,
Doesn't matter.
container, it doesn't really matter. It makes no difference. So yeah, you did, like, the structure was perfect. Padding is good. Padding global probably should be closer to the section, but it doesn't really matter. I usually go padding global, then padding section, and then the container small or container, whichever container you're looking for. So the container small here is giving us the width of the hero wrapper, which is fine, but we could also customize that.
I could also just have the hero wrapper, you mean, and give it a certain width.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can,
so that's what I'm a little like. I don't really know how much. I tend to make lots of custom classes myself usually, and so now because I know there is this framework, I'm sort of trying to use existing classes already. But yeah.
Yeah. So the advice I would give there is, once you get down to your container, you can start. I usually don't customize until I get into my container, and then I start building out like the hero wrapper. maybe it'd be a hero grid. Maybe I usually use grid. And so I'll just show an example of, I'm going to call this a container large so that it's larger. I'm going to add in a div here. And I would say hero grid. And make this a grid. Get rid of this. Make sure this is in rems. Oops. So I'm just making 2 columns here. And I know this isn't what you want. It's just, this is more for like an example. So you can see here that we've got the classes that are pre-written for us. And then we go hero grid, hero wrapper. This should probably be called maybe hero card or content. And even this could be called hero component, depending on what you want to call it. Yeah, like it looks good. It was good.
Okay.
Like the thing with the hero, we call it hero wrapper. There's no issue with that. If we gave this like a max width of, let's say 48 rem, then you could have this here as your component. And it doesn't have to have any properties. And your wrapper has it's doing what you want it to do. Or if you want it in the middle.
Yeah. Auto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. I wonder, Lucy, did you have any questions in regards to client first you wanted to clarify?
Not really. I think Ailin did already. Like it's indeed. So you do use lots of custom classes, but after the basic containing padding of all things, and then
Yeah, once you've set up the structure to here,
yeah,
you can do as much custom. It's usually from here that you are adding in custom classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice
Very clear.
one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for taking the time to play around with this from our last week's lesson. Thank you so much. We also have a couple more. If you want to review them, Ailin. I know that Andrea wanted to share something that she worked on in the past, and Irina wanted to share something as well. So whoever wants to go first, I guess whoever gets on their mic and camera first can go first. Andrea, there she is.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay. Should I paste my read only, right?
Perfect. And welcome, Kinga. It's your first time here. Super excited to have you here with us today.
Hi.
Hey.
Ooh, nice. This is really nice. Do you have a question first, Andrea, or do you want me just to have a look at it?
No, I think you can have a look at it. I don't know. I usually have, regarding client first, what I usually question myself about is the naming, when to use the underscore and when to use the dash. I know for the main sections, it's always an underscore, but yeah, like after that, it's like maybe for things like custom classes, I will use a dash, and maybe for things that are more like structure, I will use another one. So yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's the way it should be. So if you're trying to think of, like, if you've got a hero card and the way I usually do it, if it's getting too long, then I start using the underscore, and then you start thinking about the folder structures inside in client first, which it's more complex, and we can look at that maybe next week or something. But I'll have a quick look at this first. I'll just share this screen.
Awesome.
Cool, thanks.
See your phone ringing.
Just give me one.
Can feel something's ringing somewhere or
That's me.
vibrating.
Yeah, there was. I'm gonna just turn this off.
Whenever people call me during our lives, I just send them a link. You wanna talk to me? Join the chat.
Okay, good
Nice.
stuff. Now let's go through. This is perfect. Main section. Yeah. Global padding. Everything is perfect here. Hero wrapper. Yeah. Hero wrap. Hero wrap half. Hero wrap half. So you're using flex. Yeah. And then you're making these 50% width. Yeah. There's no issue with that. You're giving it combo classes left and right. So what I would probably, instead of calling it hero wrap half, I would call it hero content, maybe. But that's just the way I would do it. And then you're going into your farm. So now here we're getting into, yeah, so the way, so I'll keep on this first content first, logo holder. So this seems to be a global class. You've used this a few times and you've got your logo image. That's fine.
Lucy says
Margin.
hero underscore column.
Yeah, hero col. That sounds good as well. I've often used that. That's a nice one. And is left is right. That's perfect with the combo classes, distinguishing the two different ones. This is a custom global, which is fine as well. We're going to use that throughout the site. Sometimes, depending on what we're doing, something like this, I might make it a component. Okay, I'll just show you. So I could make this a component and we'll call it like logo. And what that allows me to do is if there's other places throughout the site, I just type in logo and it'll pop up and it makes it easier. It's just a little quick trick to make things faster and easier for myself. It also means that if it's edited in one place, it'll be like if they have a new design, that your logos will edit everywhere. Now, I usually, instead of these spaces, I usually use a padding. So I put in a div and I call it, oops, I just put that inside. Padding bottom. Now the reason why is you can see here with the margin. So what this is just, there's no difference really to what we're doing here, but it is padding that we're putting in between these elements. It's not a margin. And then when you're using Webflow, you can see there's this little, you can see the margin, and that's because the class, the styling is to the outside. And when Webflow give you just any div, they have a little bit of, I think it's about 75 padding inside here that we don't see, but they add that in just so that visually we don't lose our div, because like in reality, a div shouldn't be this big, it's flat. So that's what's happening here when you've added your margin medium, is that it's taken the whatever hidden properties that Webflow have added to the divs so that we can find them when we're developing. So just for I suppose the visual aspect and to make it easier to work with, I would use a margin bottom or a spacer like someone mentioned the last day, but I would build that using padding. The other option, if you do like using margins, is that I would put the logo inside the margin. And I would put this, we've got 2 hero animations. So that right? Yeah, I put both of these inside the margin like that, just so that it looks nicer. That would be the only thing with that.
Yeah, actually, since I built this project, I've been using spacers. I don't use margins anymore.
Yeah.
For the same reason. Like some client wanted to go into the designer, and he's like, "Oh my God, what's happening here?"
Yeah.
So that, and I don't like to put them inside of the margins, because if you need it later with a different margin or something, it just complicates things, I guess. I just like to use the blocks, but
Yeah,
I find spacers are better.
Yeah, I find spacers better as well. I much prefer using like padding bottom or a spacer, because it for me, once it gets down here, it's too nested. But but none of this is incorrect, is what I'm trying to say. Is if you wanted to use margin bottom, um, but yeah, in this side, so we've got our hero call again. Now, when we've gone in here, we've got our form wrapper. So this is another instance. So like the form is what we're building, and I would write it like this: form wrapper, and then form title text, because everything inside here is inside the form. So if you think of what you're, in the same way that we've got our hero, everything inside the hero is like our hero wrap, hero call, etc. And like, well, hero animation holder, yeah, I would put this under, I'd write it like this. Oh, nice. It's all, and then we've got our heading. Perfect. So that's a H1. Now, okay, we're getting into something a little bit I'll come back to this. This is actually going to touch on quite well with talking about typography. So I'll just finish the form. Over here is form block. We've got our form. That's nice. Fields. This is all fine.
Ailin, for anyone who's just joined us, maybe, can you just quickly explain what we're doing?
Sorry. So we're just doing a quick look at the client first syntax and structure of this particular build. So last week we worked on building out a hero section in client first, and we asked a few people to make some very straightforward client first builds, and now we're just having a bit of a review. And this particular site is a fully built site using client first, and we're just reviewing just reviewing the syntax of of our CSS.
Perfect.
So that all looks good. So this again, we would change that into a padding, which we don't really need to do now considering we've done it, but I'll just. And we're not, it's a padding, padding medium is what we wanted there. Now this is interesting because I understand why you've done this. Like, that's beautiful. But structurally, this is incorrect. We've got 3 H1s on our site. And
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to build that. That was the first time I tried that animation. So
yeah. So there's a few ways we can use spans to try and build it, but it's a little bit difficult. Okay, so what I would do is this really isn't a H1 an experience. It's more like a subheading. So a H1 is kind of like join the growth journey with Burn. What I would do in this instance is I would put in a heading above here. and I'll give it a class of, I'm just going to give it H1 at the moment, and I will put in your SEO rich content here, and I would hide this. And then these guys I would make as paragraphs. I will give it the same. So now it looks the same. And is there anything additional here? No, it's inside the wrapper. I'm going to get rid of that. So now, structurally, we've got our H1, and we only have one H1, which is explaining what this page is doing, followed by our paragraphs. And if I've done this right, and if, oh, I haven't, I'm sorry, is
It may
we
be
should
built
be,
in the wrong way, so don't worry.
no. The animation then should work inside here if we set this up correctly. Or I've broken something here for you, but
Yeah, no worries. I get the idea. Yeah, so the hidden H1.
So this is getting, I'm getting kind of nerdy here. So the way this animation is set up is it's targeting individual elements, which is what you wanted to do, not the class. And that's why I have broken your website.
No problem.
Yeah, the way I would set this up is I would put in a hidden H1 followed by P tags or text tags for the slogan. And I think that kind of moves on to what we were going to talk about today, which was the important, like we're going to talk about typography. So I could do one more review and then we could move into typography if that's what people want.
Yes, I think yeah, because we've got about 25 minutes left, so that'd be
Okay,
great.
Thank you so much.
Lucy, did you have a question? I think you put your hand up for a second.
Yeah, but it's not really on topic. The hidden H1, I believe Google doesn't really like when you hide SEO content like that. You tend to get penalized. But I guess for now you hid it just because you don't know which content would be there. But
yeah, there definitely is that argument. However, it is common enough to use it. The other thing is that you could potentially, you really need to talk to your design. That would be where you'd have like an interaction with the designer and say, like,
of course. What do you think about using the logo as an H1? Well, I mean, now it's an image, but basically the name of the company is an H1. Is that weird?
No, it's not weird. It's about, you can do that too. Yeah, because that's what people would be searching.
Yeah. Okay.
And see, the logo should have
alt.
An alt text.
Yeah. Anyway.
Which should be taken with, we can do a custom, or we could take it from the asset, which would explain what the company is as well. But there's no issue with having the company name as a H1, which would make a lot of sense if that's what people are searching.
Okay, thanks. Then we can move on to typography.
Well, we do have Irina's project to look at really quickly, and then we can crack on. Yeah. I just pasted it in the chat for you to share, Ailin. She can't get on her mic, so I'll be reading the chat for her. Oh, there she is.
This is beautiful.
Hi, Irina. Did you get rid of
I might be fine, but I don't know. I might have to turn off.
Hey, this is why, we're a community of women. Women do have kids and men do as well. And it's part of life. So, we're inclusive and supportive. So whatever it is,
Thank you for that.
Ailin, can you share your screen to show her project?
Sure. Yeah. I thought, is there a question straight off, or do I'll just go straight?
No, just like how it was my very first Webflow build and very first build where I tried client first. So basically, I learned client first, and then I decided to see how it works. So I built this website, and I'm just curious how good were my practices.
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So we'll look at the hero again. So the first thing that I see is we have HTML embed here, which is fine. And we have,
Yeah, that
you're
could probably
using the
go to
fluid
global
response.
styles now. I see that. I didn't need that one. It could just go
Is it
to
in the
global.
global styles as well?
No. Back then I just copied. I cloned. I think
Mhm.
what that called for client first. They have like a clonable. So I cloned it, and I think back then I just couldn't figure out what it is. Now, now I know. So
That's
yeah, I
okay.
would put that HTML just in global styles.
So this is good because so what we have here is we've got a HTML embed that is specific to this page, and this here, the global styles, is it's a component, which means we can reuse it very easily throughout the rest of the site.
Yeah.
So if you wanted this fluid responsive to only be visible on this particular page, then you've done the correct thing. If you wanted it to be reused throughout other pages, then we would add it into the global styles.
Yeah.
So now when we're in here, we've got our page wrapper, global styles. I would move the embed inside the page wrapper. And then we've got our nav. Our nav looks really good, structured really, really well. Nav bar logo, everything is, yeah, this is perfect. There's no issues with any of this at all. That looks really clean, really nice. Nice, and we got our double underscore when you're nesting deeper inside the menu icon. That's really well done. And our nav is outside our main, which is good too. And then we're into our main wrapper. Section header is ID header. It's set up as a section, which is fine. If I was naming a section header, I would set it up as a header, not a section, but that's okay too. Padding section headers. So we have got our first custom class, which is fine because you have set this up that you were probably using padding section huge or.
I don't remember now why I didn't.
I remember
okay.
this
Yeah. I see, because it's specific for 12 and 8. It's specific for very first, for header section basically. So that's why.
Yeah. And
it's not,
what I would probably do in this instance is just call it header padding.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe something like that, heading vertical padding, and then that would be more of how I would probably think to write this. Grid header.
It's interesting to look at it now.
But it's readable. It's quite good. It's good.
Yeah, I think what I tried to do, I tried to have all the grids in one kind of like folder, but I don't know if it was a good idea or not.
So this is, yeah, I get you. So what I would, if you wanted to go like more global classes, like with grid, and you wanted to have one specific to the header, that's the way I would set it up.
Okay.
If you were to do that, and then we've got our header image wrap. Header title, image wrap. This is, this is like, there was a few minor things, but it was structured really well.
And I remember, like, was it your first Webflow build in general, or just your first client first?
First in general and first client.
I know. I remember you sharing that in the community, and I was so impressed. For a first project, it looks beautiful. It's very elegant and it's well built. So I was really impressed for a first project.
Thank you.
The one quick thing here. So you got your main, and this is set up as a main, which is great. Now your footer is set up as a footer. That's, yeah. I don't, apart from those small minor things, this is really well built.
Thank you. Thanks for this review.
Awesome. Well,
Right.
thank you for showing your projects, girls. And so, Ailin, should we now?
We should move on to, okay, so yeah, all right. We're going to I'll blast through typography pretty quickly. So let's share this. And okay, so what we touched on REMs last week, and we touched on a bit of typography and custom classes. So the reason why we use REMs, one of the main reasons that we use REMs is for accessibility. When you're using a REM over using a viewport width or a percentage, everything scales at the exact same ratio. Whereas if you have something built on a viewport width, it scales at the ratio of whatever viewport you're working with, which can mess up designs. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that if someone, when they're using a REM, because it's a multiple, so a REM generally is, browsers are generally set to 16 pixels, and then a REM is a multiple of that. So it's 1 multiplied by 16. But if you're hard of seeing and you want to increase, as you can see with this little demo here, you want to increase the size of your phone. You notice this, like I noticed this with my parents, their phone has got bigger icons and bigger text. When you're using REMs, that multiplication is scaled and it's very easy to do. Whereas if you're using pixels and viewport widths or percentages, things can be misaligned. So that was I suppose the first thing to touch on. Now we're over here and we're going to just touch on typography. So we touched on this on the first class, the first day we were talking, that we've got our HTML tags and we've got our custom, our classes. So if I go in here and type in heading, we've got our H1 heading. And if we change this to a H2, H3, H4, H5, you can see that there's already styles attached to what we have here. Now we've also got, so the styles are connected to the tags. So what is a H1 tag? A H1 tag is when you're writing out your HTML, it'll look like that. So what we have done here is we have attached this piece of this size and this height and this font weight to the H1. Up here, we have added in a class. This is the client first class, and the style is attached to this particular class, even though they're the exact same. So if I change this to 6, you can see that the heading style will change, but the tag doesn't. Now, when we're structuring our site, we touched on this earlier when we had our hidden H1. You should only have one H1 on the site, and we should try to only have one H1 at all costs. So we were seeing that there was a design that needed to have an animation. We should try and figure out ways that we don't have multiple H1s so that we can build out a beautiful design. So the way we should structure a site is we have our H1, and we're going to add in another heading, usually H1 followed by a H2, and we can have multiple H2s on our site, on our homepage, on our page. And then if we're to do something, if we wanted to have, like the H2 should be inside a section. And if we wanted to have a card, for example, then we would add another heading underneath that and call it and have it as a H3. Up. And so on. And underneath the H3s, then we could have a heading call and give that a H4. And this is just very straight this is just good practice, and this allows, because if you think in this very simple term, how Google is going to look for a site that first of all going to find our domain name, then they're going to start scrolling down, reading from the body. So the very top of the page, it's going to start reading and going in kind of this direction, reading everything and looking for answers. And the first thing it's going to look for is the H1 tag. And does that H1 tag answer a particular question for someone? And if it does, it's going to look for more details. And usually those details can be found in a paragraph, which would be right underneath the H1. And if that gives enough answers, the correct answer to this H1, which Google is looking for, it'll then look for a H2 followed by a paragraph. And if it needs more questions, a H3, etc. And keep going down in this particular, this is quite simplistic, but this is the basic way that Google reads these sites. Now, we saw earlier on where we wanted to do something, we wanted a design to break, but the design was threatening to break this kind of very straightforward HTML structure. So let's say I have my H1 is going to be the company name. As we were saying, people are looking for the company. And in here, we're going to just say, just do it, because this is the slogan. Now, what would be, what we can do here, so what often happens is people would say that this is not the design that we want. So this is Nike. We don't want things to look like this. We want just do it to be big and Nike to be small. And we want it to be, in this kind of very nice design, which looks good. But structure, in terms of writing HTML, it's incorrect. So what we should do in this instance is have the company name, Nike, and just do it as a p tag and change this, give this a class that more represents our design. So this one here is text size, I think we're in medium. And we will give this the H1. Now, this looks more like what someone would design, but Google will find the correct answer of Nike or company name underneath the H1 and then find the slogan. And you can see here that even though we're using this class, which is representative of a H1, it is not a H1. It's a P tag. So I suppose I've gone through really quickly, touching on tags and classes and structure of typography. So if there is a quick question, I'd happily answer it. And maybe we can talk about this a bit more next week.
Let's see. People here in the community, do we have any questions about this? And yeah, speaking of next week as well, Ailin, I know that it marks our final episode of this summer camp. So I was wondering what you have planned for us for our final round.
Well, I was hoping to, yeah, I didn't really get through what we got through today. We could go into more of the complexities of using custom classes, or maybe if people wanted, we could compare to other systems. We could look at
Mast.
We could look at Mast,
Yeah.
if people wanted, or we could look at the folder structures inside in client first, which is we're getting quite complex there. It depends on what people would want. So maybe we put it up as a vote.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to have a quick look at Mast, or do they want to go deeper into client first?
Yeah, we can run a poll in the community. I know that Mast came up a couple episodes back, so yeah, I'll let you know as soon as possible. But amazing. I can see Lucy in the chat. She says it sounds very clear, I guess in regards to what you just explained. So thank you so much for that. yeah, I don't think we have any more questions on that matter. Unless you wanted to show us something else just before we wrap up.
I suppose that this is where we touched on this already, that we were using the classes based off of what client first had given us. So I'll just share it quickly again, and this might be this will kind of answer. Yeah, okay, so this is the styling that is already in client first that we get when we take the clonables, but potentially we could be wanting to make this is, let's say a combo class is red. So the color of red. And then if we added another class, this kind of touches on something that we were talking about before we went live. We could, say is in, not think. Now we're getting down this, like we are, this structurally is correct, but we're kind of getting into the realms of, we're adding some, because of the way Webflow is set up, that adding multiple combo classes like this, it's getting a bit complicated. So this is where we would start thinking about turning this whole combo into one class. And somewhere here in client first, in FinSuite have a Chrome extension, and you can go to this setting here that says merge combo classes. And you can see the way they've already pulled what we're working with. And now I can just call this hero heading. And we can merge them, and it's going to save my project. And now we've got this. Oh, that should have happened. There's our hero heading. And it's a good example of, like, when we're nesting too much, then we should start thinking about going custom classes.
Perfect.
So
yeah, I think that's great. We looked, into the typography; it was really clear. So thank you so much for sharing that. And even whilst looking at people's project, I always think that's a great learning opportunity. Just I much prefer learning whilst doing than just like sit and listen to a talk. So I love that a lot. So thank you for that. Those reviews. And yeah, I guess for next week, we can look a little bit more into the custom classes because we haven't had enough time today for that. And I'll let you know about our poll, whether it's going to be must or what was the other option?
I was just saying between mast and going deeper into client first. So maybe custom classes or looking at folders inside in client first. Really. But also, if there is other builds that people want me to take a look at, I'm happy to do that as well.
Yeah, that would be fun. I love looking at people.
So maybe I'll give the homework again. People want to try and build a hero section.
we can try. We can definitely try. All right. Well, I guess that will be all for today. So Ailin, thank you again for being here. I'm quite sad it's going to be the last one next week, but also very grateful that we had this opportunity with you. So thank you once again.
It'll be just the last one for the summer. We'll do another one.
Oh, I like that. I like that attitude. Love that. All right. Well, to all the lovely Floxies here, I will see you in our Discord. And if you're not part of our community, do join us. It's free. It's fun. It's Floxies.
Nice.
Thank you, Ailin.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.